My boss didn't just transfer me, he sent me to a dying branch to ruin my career. But he didn't know I found the one secret that could save it, so I built a trap that would expose his corruption to the entire world. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious, where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The rain that Thursday wasn't just water, it was a physical assault. It was that freezing, sideways sleet that ignores umbrellas and soaks straight through to your bones. I walked into the downtown headquarters dripping wet, shivering uncontrollably, my immune system already battered from 3 weeks of pulling double shifts to cover for a team restructuring. I felt feverish, my head pounding in rhythm with the thunder rattling the glass lobby doors. I was physically drained, running on caffeine and loyalty when I saw Darren waiting at my desk. He didn't say good morning. He didn't ask why I was soaking wet or why I looked like I was about to collapse. He didn't even look up from his phone at first. He just reached out a manicured hand and slid a thick manila envelope across the polished mahogany surface. The movement was casual, dismissive, like he was handing me someone else's junk mail. "You're being transferred," he said. The corners of his mouth twitched upward, a smile that didn't reach his cold, calculating eyes. It looked more like he was enjoying a private joke. I blinked, water dripping from my eyelashes onto the envelope. "Transferred," my voice sounded raspy, weak. "Westbrook Service Center, effective Monday." The room seemed to tilt. Westbrook, everyone knew what Westbrook meant. It was the punchline of every joke at the company happy hours. It was the graveyard, an ancient strip mall location on the edge of the city with peeling signage and zero-foot traffic. Rumors had been circling for a year that they were just waiting for the lease to expire to shutter it for good. Sending a manager there wasn't a lateral move, it was a career death sentence. "Darren, that branch is," I started, but he cut me off with a wave of his hand. "It's an opportunity, Jordan, take it." I looked around the open-plan floor, desperate for an ally. Jenna from compliance, who I had helped with her audit last month, suddenly found her keyboard fascinating. Dave from finance turned his chair around. Even Kim, who I'd split a sandwich with just last week while we complained about this exact type of corporate maneuvering, refused to meet my gaze. The silence was suffocating. I realized then that I was contagious. Darren had marked me and nobody wanted to catch the fallout. I had given this company 3 years of my life. I was the guy they called for middle-of-the-night fire drills. I was Darren's go-to guy. And now I was being discarded like a wet paper towel because I had become inconvenient. I took the envelope, my hands trembling slightly, whether from the cold or the rage, I couldn't tell. I walked out into the storm, feeling the weight of their collective betrayal crushing my chest. The silence from the people I'd fought for cut deeper than the cold rain. That weekend was a blur of insomnia and nausea. I couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Darren's smug face. By Monday morning, the fever had broken, but it was replaced by a cold, hard knot of dread in my stomach. I drove to Westbrook, the GPS taking me further and further away from the skyline and into a neighborhood of cracked pavement and boarded-up storefronts. I walked into the branch, and the reality was worse than the rumors. The air inside smelled stale, like old coffee and damp paper. The carpet was a patchwork of brown stains, the fluorescent lights overhead flickered with a maddening buzz, and the front counter was literally held together with silver duct tape. 5 employees sat scattered behind dusty desks. They didn't look up with hope or curiosity. They looked at me like I was the undertaker arriving to measure them for coffins. I stepped to the front desk. A woman in her late 50s looked up from a monitor that looked like it belonged in a museum. Her glasses were fogged, and her expression was pure exhaustion. "You must be the new branch manager," she said, her voice flat. "I guess that's me," I said, forcing a tone of authority I didn't feel. "Name's Jordan." "Pam, assistant manager." She didn't offer a hand, she just stood up and started walking toward the back office. "Come on, might as well see the damage." I followed her past a filing cabinet that leaned precariously to the left. "No one told us you were coming," she threw over her shoulder. "Honestly, not sure why they bothered sending anyone. You're just here to babysit the death spiral." "Is it that bad?" I asked, stepping into an office that was little more than a closet with a desk. "Worse," Pam said, dropping into a squeaky chair. "Moral is shot. Tech is from the Stone Age. Most of our clients left because corporate stopped approving their service tickets. They're starving us out, Jordan." I sat down at the empty desk. The drawers were empty except for a stack of exit surveys rubber-banded together. I picked them up, dozens of them. I started flipping through the comments. They weren't complaints about the staff, they were complaints about the policy. "We didn't leave, you pushed us out." My business is growing, but your bank refuses to upgrade my tier. I ran my thumb over the edge of the paper. This wasn't incompetence. This was abandonment. It was a planned demolition. I looked at Pam, who was watching me with pity. She thought I was just another corporate suit sent to sign the death certificate. But as I looked at the sheer volume of lost clients in that stack, a thought sparked in the back of my mind. Darren had sent me here to fail quietly. He expected me to sit in this moldy office and wait for the end. But he had forgotten one crucial thing: I never walk away from a fight without checking the inventory first. To understand why this hurt so much, you have to understand the history. I wasn't just an employee, I was a believer. When I started, I bought into the mission statement. I worked weekends without overtime pay. I missed my niece's birthday party to handle a server migration. I did it because I thought loyalty was a currency that banked interest. The turning point had been 2 weeks ago in the ops meeting. It was supposed to be routine. Then Darren had pulled up a slide deck about efficiency optimizations. "We're cutting the middle-income service plans," he had said, smoothing his silk tie. "They don't drive enough premium value, high maintenance, low yield." The room had gone quiet. These were thousands of working-class clients, mechanics, teachers, small shop owners, people who needed us. I had raised my hand. "Darren, how does dropping thousands of working-class clients align with our mission? We built this brand on community access." It wasn't rude, it wasn't loud, but in Darren's world, questioning the narrative was treason. He had played it off with a laugh, calling me sentimental, but I saw the flash of malice in his eyes. He was a man who viewed his subordinates as furniture, useful until they squeaked, then replaced. Now, sitting in the wreckage of Westbrook, I saw the full picture. Darren wasn't just cutting costs, he was curating a portfolio that looked good for his quarterly bonus while gutting the foundation of the company. He was an architect of ruin, polished in a three-piece suit. He had sent me here because Westbrook was the physical manifestation of the customers he despised: working class, struggling, and easy to ignore. He wanted to kill two birds with one stone: shutter the ugly branch and bury the troublesome manager who asked too many questions. I looked out the dirty window at the rain-slicked parking lot. He wanted me to quit. He wanted me to fade away. But looking at the team outside, Pam rubbing her temples, a young guy at the teller station trying to fix a printer with a paperclip, I felt that sickness in my stomach turn into something else. It hardened into cold resolve. "Pam," I said, my voice low, "who is the landlord for this building?" She looked confused. "Why?" "Because," I stood up, "I want to know exactly how much time we have before the executioner arrives." That night I sat on my lumpy couch in my apartment, staring at a blank notepad until the lines started to blur. I kept replaying Darren's voice in my head, the way he had smiled when he handed me that envelope. He was so sure of the outcome. He had calculated the variables: low traffic, low morale, zero support. Result: failure. But the thing about being backed into a corner is that you start looking for exits that no one else bothers to check. I pulled up my laptop and started digging. I wasn't looking at bank data, I was looking at city planning maps. I wanted to know what else was dying in that neighborhood. I scrolled through zoning permits, sewage upgrades, and electrical grid requests. My eyes were burning, but then I saw it. A massive red outline wrapping around 6 city blocks just 2 streets east of the branch. River Commons Redevelopment Zone. I clicked the link, my heart skipped a beat. It wasn't dead, it was waking up. The city had approved a massive grant for small business revitalization. Over 300 commercial licenses had been issued in the last 6 months alone. Mixed-use buildings, pop-up shops, independent gyms, tech startups, artisan bakeries. The whole corridor was about to explode with economic activity, and because the area was still technically zoned as distressed, corporate's algorithm had completely ignored it. Darren was looking at a spreadsheet from last year. I was looking at a map of next year. The next morning, I was at the bra. NCH before the automatic lights even buzzed on. Pam walked in 10 minutes later, clutching her travel mug like a lifeline. "You know about River Commons?" I asked, not even saying hello. I spun my laptop around to face her. She blinked, confused. "The construction zones, yeah, dust and noise." "Not just dust, Pam, money." I pointed at the screen. 300 new businesses, and you're telling me not one of them banks with us." Pam snorted a dry, cynical sound. "Corporate doesn't want us wasting time on startups. High risk, they call it, so we turn them away." "Who do they bank with?" She shrugged. "Whoever actually shows up, which is nobody." I stood up and started pacing the worn carpet. We are sitting on a gold mine, and HQ is too busy looking at quarterly projections to look out the window. Pam, what if we stopped waiting for permission? She lowered her mug, meanings. Meaning we stop following the script, we go after them, we bring them here. Jordan, that's a hell of a suicide note. They've already written us off. Then we have nothing to lose. By 9:00 a.m., the rest of the crew was crammed into the break room. Miguel, our loan officer, a sharp local guy who looked bored out of his mind, Darryl, the tech guy who fixed our ancient printers with duct tape and spite, Vanessa, who ran new accounts with a terrifying efficiency, and Deshan, a teller who knew everyone's grandmother by name. I laid it out, the map, the numbers, the plans. You want us to rebel against the company with what? Vanessa asked, raising an eyebrow. Pens and paper clips. I want to prove we aren't dead yet, I said. Miguel leaned forward, looking at the map. I know a few guys opening shops down there, a barber and a guy running a craft brewery. They still owe me beers. My cousin is on the River Commons Merchant Board, Vanessa added quietly. She's been complaining that the big banks won't give them the time of day. Get us in the room, I said. Let's build something. We moved fast, too fast for corporate to track. Miguel and I drafted small business bundles that didn't technically exist in the system. We combined personal checking with low-tier business savings to create a package that made sense for startups. Darryl printed flyers on his own dime. Vanessa worked the phones. For 3 days, we were a guerrilla unit. We walked the construction sites in hard hats, shaking hands with owners who were covered in drywall dust. We sat on crates and explained fee structures to exhausted bakers. We didn't act like bankers, we acted like partners. And it worked. By Thursday, the lobby, usually empty, had a line, real people, business owners. That's when Darren noticed the blip on the radar. It started with an all-staff email. Subject, mandatory compliance training, Westbrook branch only. He's on to us, Pam said, reading the screen over my shoulder. Daily 1:00 p.m. to 5:00 p.m., I read aloud. Starting today. He was pulling us off the floor during peak hours. He wanted to choke our momentum. We went to HQ like kids sent to the principal's office. The training was a farce, 4 hours of reading outdated safety manuals in a freezing conference room. Darren walked in halfway through, feigning surprise. Well, look at that, he said, his voice echoing in the sterile room. The Westbrook crew, brave of you to focus on compliance when your numbers are so volatile. Just following orders, Darren, I said, keeping my face stone. Good, that's rare these days. He smiled that same smug smile. Don't work too hard, hate for you to burn out before the end. He thought that would stop us, he was wrong. We went back to the branch at 5:30 p.m. and stayed until midnight. We processed applications in the dark, eating takeout pizza on the floor. We were tired, but the air in the office was electric. We had signed 18 new business accounts in 2 days. Then came Monday. I walked in to find 2 men in polo shirts crawling under the desks. They were ripping out Ethernet cables. What is this? I demanded, dropping my briefcase. One of them didn't even look up. Scheduled hardware upgrades came straight from the VP. Since when? Effective immediately, we're pulling the servers for maintenance. You'll be offline for 48 to 72 hours. Pam walked in behind me and stopped dead. He disconnected us. It wasn't an upgrade, it was a digital execution. He had blinded us. No email, no account access, no way to input the new applications. We have 20 clients coming in today to sign papers, Miguel said, his voice rising in panic. I promised them we'd be ready. I looked at the severed cables, then at the black screens of our monitors. Darren wasn't just trying to fire me anymore. He was trying to humiliate us. He wanted those clients to walk in, see a broken branch, and leave. He wanted to prove that Westbrook was incompetent. He wants us to fail, I said, a cold calm washing over me. He thinks why. Stout computers were nothing. I turned to the teams, they looked defeated. The momentum was gone. Darryl, I said, do we have any typewriters? He blinked. A what? Old school carbon copy forms, the emergency stash in the basement. Yeah, maybe's why. Because, I said, loosening my tie, we don't need the internet to shake hands. We're going analog. The next 48 hours were chaos, but the organized kind. We turned the branch into a 1980s operation room. We dragged dusty typewriters upstairs. We used personal cell phones to call clients. We filled out forms by hand, triplicates snapping with every pen stroke. When the clients came in and saw the screens were dark, we told them the truth. Our systems are down, but we aren't. They loved it. They respected the hustle. But we were bleeding time. I knew Darren would see the lack of digital activity and assume we were dead in the water. He'd de-accelerate the closure. I needed a kill shot. I needed leverage that went higher than a regional VP. Late Tuesday night, amidst a pile of paper applications, I was manually cross-referencing our new clients with a corporate directory I'd saved offline. I was looking for a connection, a name, anything. Then I found it. One of the new accounts Vanessa had landed was a boutique marketing firm called Bright Current Media. The owner was a young guy named Travis Benton. The name scratched at my memory. I dug through my saved files, old newsletters, company bios, and there it was. Kenneth Wright, the company's CFO, a man known for being ruthless with numbers but obsessed with legacy. In his bio, hidden under a list of charitable boards, mentor to nephew Travis Benton. My heart hammered against my ribs. We had the CFO's nephew as a client, and Darren was about to delete his branch. Pam's, I called out, come here. She walked over, rubbing her neck. What? I found the pressure point. I showed her the screen. Darren is trying to close the branch that services the CFO's family. That's lucky, she whispered. It's not enough, I said. He'll just transfer the account. We need to show Wright the full picture. We need to show him that Darren is actively suppressing growth to cover his own mismanagement. How we can't email him, we have no network. We hand deliver it. Wednesday morning, the death blow arrived via courier, a physical letter. Westbrook branch closure, effective Monday 8:00 a.m., final inventory Sunday. They had moved up the timeline. We had 4 days. He knows, Miguel said, tossing the letter on the desk. He knows we're still moving. We have to get to Wright, I said. Where is he? He's untouchable, Vanessa said. He works on the top floor. Security won't even let us in the elevator. Grace, I turned to our quietest teller. Your cousin runs the events calendar for River Commons, right? Well, yeah. Is there anything happening this weekend? Anything big? She pulled out her phone. Saturday, the Future of Commerce Gala. It's a black tie thing for the investors. Mayor is speaking. Is Wright on the guest list? She scrolled. He's the keynote speaker. I looked at the team. We were tired, dusty, and working with equipment that belonged in a museum. But we had something Darren didn't. We had the truth, bound in a stack of 300 handwritten applications. We aren't going to email him, I said. We're going to crash that gala. We're going to compile every single account, every projection, and every piece of evidence that this branch is a gold mine, and we are going to put it in his hands before Darren can lock the doors. That's trespassing, Darrell noted, but he was smiling. It's aggressive marketing, I corrected. Get the binders, we have work to do. Saturday night arrived with a humid, nervous energy. The Future of Commerce Gala was held in a massive, glass-walled pavilion overlooking the very riverfront that corporate had ignored. Inside, the air was conditioned and smelled of expensive perfume and catered salmon. Outside, in the shadows of the service entrance, my team and I adjusted our ties. We didn't look like the rest of the guests. My suit was 3 years old. Miguel was wearing a blazer he'd borrowed from his brother. Pam was clutching the thick, red binder to her chest like it was a shield. My cousin left the side door unlocked, Grace whispered, checking her phone. We have maybe 5 minutes before security does their rounds. We only need 2, I said. Let's go. We slipped inside, the noise of the gala washing over us, clinking glasses, polite laughter, the hum of networking. We navigated the perimeter of the room, sticking to the shadows, scanning the crowd. I spotted him first. Darren was standing near the center of the room, holding a champagne flute, laughing loudly at something a board member had said. He looked entirely in his element, a man who had successfully buried his mistakes and was ready to call. CT his reward. And then I saw Kenneth Wright. The CFO was standing near the stage, looking bored, checking his watch. He was a man who valued efficiency, and this party was clearly wasting his time. Now I signaled to the team. We moved in a phalanx, cutting straight through the crowd. People turned to stare. We clearly didn't belong, but we moved with a purpose that made them step aside. Darren saw us when we were 10 feet away. His smile faltered, then vanished. His eyes darted to security, then back to me. He stepped into my path, his voice a low hiss. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Jordan? You're trespassing." "Excuse me, Darren," I said, my voice carrying over the low hum of the room. "I'm here to deliver the quarterly report you forgot to file." I sidestepped him, but he grabbed my arm. "Security," he barked, causing heads to turn. The room went silent. That was exactly what I wanted. Kenneth Wright looked up, his sharp eyes narrowing. He saw the commotion. He saw Darren gripping my arm. He saw the red binder. "Mr. Wright," I called out, shaking off Darren's hand. "I'm Jordan Collins, manager of the Westbrook branch." Wright took a step forward. "Westbrook, that branch is slated for closure on Monday." "That's what Darren told you," I said, stepping into the open circle that had formed around us. "He told you Westbrook was a dead zone. He told you the clients were low value. He told you there was no growth." "Get him out of here," Darren shouted, his face flushing red. Two security guards started moving toward us. "Did he tell you," I continued, raising my voice, "that we opened 43 business accounts in the last 4 days? Did he tell you that River Commons is the fastest-growing commercial district in the city? Or did he leave that out of the slideshow?" Wright held up a hand. The security guards froze. The CFO looked at Darren, then at me. 43 accounts. "Hand processed," I said, motioning to Pam. She stepped forward and held out the binder. "Because our data lines were cut on Monday, just in time to stop us from uploading the applications." Wright took the binder. The room was deathly quiet. He opened it. The first page wasn't a spreadsheet. It was a handwritten letter from Travis Benton, his nephew. I saw Wright's eyebrows shoot up. He turned the page. He saw the copies of the carbon paper applications. He saw the photos of the new storefronts. He saw the notarized deposit slips totaling over $2 million in initial funding. "This is," Wright muttered, running a finger over a jagged signature. "This is manual entry." "We went analog, sir," I said, "because we were sabotaged, but the businesses in this room, they didn't care about our computers. They cared that we showed up." Wright looked up from the binder, his gaze shifting to Darren. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Darren," Wright said, his voice terrifyingly calm, "you told the board that Westbrook had zero projected growth. You filed a closure request based on market stagnation." The data supported it at the time," Darren stammered, sweating now. These are high-risk clients, Kenneth, unproven startups. I was protecting the firm's assets." "You were protecting your bonus," Wright snapped, closing the binder with a sharp thud. "You cut the lines to your own branch. You tried to bury a $2 million pipeline because it didn't fit your narrative." "It was a strategic consolidation," Darren argued, his voice cracking. "It was fraud," Wright corrected. He turned to me, a rare look of respect in his eyes. "Monday morning, the closure is canceled." The fallout was swift and absolute. Darren didn't even make it to the parking lot before his company phone was remotely wiped. By Monday morning, while we were unlocking the front doors of Westbrook, security was escorting him out of the downtown headquarters with a box of personal effects. The investigation Wright launched uncovered not just the Westbrook sabotage, but a history of data manipulation Darren had used to justify closing 3 other branches in low-income neighborhoods to artificially boost his efficiency metrics. He was facing legal action from the shareholders. Westbrook, on the other hand, was reborn. At 9:00 a.m. on Monday, the executioners from it didn't show up to take our inventory. Instead, a team of technicians arrived to install fiber optic cables and brand new terminals. Kenneth Wright came by personally at noon. He walked the stained carpet, looked at the duct-taped counter, and shook his head. "This changes today," he told me. He authorized an immediate renovation budget, but more importantly, he sat down with the team, Miguel, Pam, Vanessa, Darryl, and Grace, and listened. He listened to their strategy for the River Commons. He looked at the map we had pinned to the wall. "You didn't just save a branch," Wright said, shaking my hand in the newly bright lobby. "You found a market we were too blind to see. You're the new model, Jordan." He offered me a promotion to regional director, Darren's old job. It was a corner office, a massive salary, and a view of the skyline. I looked at the team. Miguel was laughing on the phone with a brewery owner. Pam was finally smiling as she trained a new hire on a computer that actually worked. Deshaun was greeting a line of customers that stretched out the door. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Wright," I said, but I think I'll stay here for a while. We've got a lot of work to do. He smiled. I had a feeling you'd say that. 6 months later, Westbrook wasn't a graveyard. It was the busiest branch in the district. The carpet was new, the sign was fresh, and the coffee didn't taste like mud. But in the back office, framed on the wall behind my desk, I kept one thing from the old days. A single handwritten application form completed in blue ink, proof that when they tried to unplug us, we just became more real.